Duel Review is brought to you by NexusDigitalComics.com.
This week on Duel Review, we do the movie Ip Man and the series Mortal Kombat.
We take a look at Gurren Lagann, the anime, and we start off the week with Incorruptible, the comic. I'm RJ.
And I'm Nick.
Let's get to it.
Welcome to Monday, August 1st. We are doing the comic book Incorruptible, which you actually brought me to. It's kind of an offshoot, or did it come out simultaneously?
Definitely after Irredeemable is what he's talking about. We reviewed that last week.
Right.
And Boom Studios.
But did it come out like at the same time, or did it come out shortly after?
Several years after, or a year after. Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
And I think that... What was the other one? It was 2008 or 7. So
2007, yeah.
So yes, a couple years afterwards, and it's kind of an arch enemy of Plutonian, which is Max Damage. It's about his transition from being the worst of the worst to trying to be a really good guy.
Right. So it's interesting that they did that kind of. I don't know if it's more or less a cop out though, where it's like the one guy. Turns from good to evil, and then this guy turns from evil to good.
I don't think it was a cop-out. I think it was probably, hey, we're getting a really good response from Irredeemable. Why don't we do the opposite? And I think obviously it was easier to get to than the first one, but I think it's just as brilliant. Having said that, the comic is not quite as fast-paced and engaging as Irredeemable. But it definitely has its charm. And okay, so Max Damage is this guy that. As long as he stays awake, his skin gets harder, he gets tougher, gets stronger, all that stuff. So he's only really vulnerable when he sleeps or right after he sleeps.
Right.
But it also causes a rogue-like problem, rogue, where he can't be intimate. He doesn't have the same kind of sensitivity and feeling when his skin gets hard.
Just in the morning when he wakes up.
He only has that few hours in the morning.
To shave.
And do whatever. But anyway, he was present during the Plutonians, Tony's wipeout of Sky City. And it was because of that atrocity, viewing that, seeing that he decided if he's going to be the bad guy, he's going to be a really bad guy. So I need to switch sides. This is wrong, and so he just decides to switch sides. But he's very kind of inept at doing that. He doesn't quite know how. He's very... cutthroat still in the way he does it, and so he starts surrounding himself, but people who try to help him feel out this new hero stage of his life come to him. The chief of police, head case, Annie, and one of Plutonian's ex-girlfriends are basically the troupe that attach themselves to him and try to help him in this new life.
Now what I liked about Irredeemable was the reality of it. Eventually, Plutonian was going to crack.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the same realism in Max Damage's case. He's an enemy who decides to become good because the good guy went bad. That kind of doesn't fit to me.
I don't think that they've explained it by the time that we've seen the first 4 trades, something like that, and I don't think they've really explored his traumatic experience. They've kind of alluded to it, and they've shown a couple of panels of him, watching the atrocity in Sky City. But I think that could be compelling, just seeing the horrible things that Tony did, and basically vaporizing millions and leveling the entire city, and being a part of that can really throw you off. It is a little bit hurried through, I think.
Yeah, I think
it's Mark Waid again, so it's the same guy who wrote Irredeemable. The artist is Gene Diaz, at least the one that's accredited largely. Okay, so when it comes to Irredeemable, I just wanted to respond to something you said, that when Plutonian changed, that it was more believable because it was unavoidable, right?
Yeah.
And my thought was, is it unavoidable because he was just down that path, or was it because everybody else suspected him? Or not everybody, but there were a lot of people that suspected him, because throughout the book, he can tell when their heartbeat is up. He can tell when they're whispering behind him or whatever. He has the power to uh, the senses
to assess what other people are seeing and thinking about him.
Right, and so my feeling is, of course, that would drive you insane.
Crazy.
I mean, maybe not quite as drastic as he became, but
I think, but not only that, but what led to that, like if he picks up something and he's not extremely gentle with it, it'll break in his hands.
That's true. The extreme frustration,
right.
Obviously. But, and then when you take it, that's what makes the book so brilliant, is you compare it to, like, Superman, which apparently everybody just inherently trusts all the time.
Right.
Pretty much. So, but, yeah, it's just interesting to think of that. I mean, would he have cracked if people had trusted him like they trust Superman,
right,
in the DC
right.
universe?
But the point that I'm trying to make is, regardless of how it came to be, Tony's snapping was inevitable, as opposed to Max Damage, who it's not believable because he's his partner is jailbait.
Right.
She's a 16-year-old girl who he often
has relations with. You have to kind of know where she comes from, though. I don't think you've gotten to that point yet. She comes from basically the sex slave industry.
Right.
And when he first frees her, in a sense, he doesn't want anything to do with her. She's the one that basically imposes herself into the duo there,
right.
The situation.
But
he's obviously weak enough, and
fall for her feminine wiles.
But she's an attractive girl,
16-year-old.
I mean, it's a little disconcerting, and obviously like, but we don't see much of Jailbait. She early on gets swapped with Annie, who is a 21-year-old.
Yeah. Well, I think she's a little bit older than that, but yeah.
Anyway, I mean,
at least I like.
I understand your point of he is kind of this really he's very far removed from any of that morality kind of stuff, and so him to switch. But see, that's the thing is, I don't know if it's I think it started off emotional, seeing the damage that plutonium caused, and then I think that it turns to rational, as in, if there's going to be this super villain now, then there's not going to be room for me, and maybe he finally got a conscience, that said, well, look, I got to fill this void.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. The way, from what you've just said, the picture that I got was him, because he becomes this numb, hard person throughout the day. He it's like he has no feeling, he has no purpose, and he can't be a hero because that job's taken by Plutonian. But once Plutonian goes, becomes a super bad guy, he, not feeling anything, doesn't know what to do. So, but even still,
well, I think it's a shock and awe, and then just kind of a rationalization of, this is where I might fit. And he does seem to have remorse for some of the things he's done. And in the beginning, when Jailbait goes missing and he's substitute with Annie, he's totally all the time like, you don't want to be with me, you don't want to take her place, all this stuff. So I don't think he feels that great about it, but I think it was just expected of him, because he keeps running into his old comrades, his old thieves in arms.
Yeah.
And they're always immediately like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm going to stop you. He doesn't allow anything. He's flipped his switch where he just can't allow any kind of, if you steal a car, you're in trouble. If you rob a bank, you're in trouble. If you sleep with an underage girl, you're in trouble, kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know if they're going to explore it more, because I understand it is a little bit.
Yeah, I would totally like it if they would, but it would have to be something like in the midst of Sky City, the wake of Sky City, something severe must have happened to him. Like, not just seeing, a crazy, superhero.
Well, I mean, think of it this way. He has always been responsible for maybe 10 deaths at a time. This is like 3 million people. If you see 3 million bodies just vaporized, that could very well change you. That could very well be like,
You're right.
wow, my life is pointless, and if somebody doesn't do something, because he knows that he's one of the only ones that could stand up to Plutonian. If he's awake long enough, he's hard enough to deal with Plutonian. He and Survivor, but he's new. He doesn't know anything about Survivor until in the book they actually run into each other in the next trade that you haven't read yet, and Modius. Those are the three that have ever given Plutonian trouble that we know about yet.
Yeah.
So it would be an extreme, sense of responsibility, and maybe it started off with, wow, this is horrible, and he's going to take over all my, my power here. He's going to take it all from me. So where's my place? Maybe it was just, compassionate. I don't know. He's not a very compassionate guy. He's very, cuts to the quick, but maybe he's a softie inside. He's hiding it.
You know what? I think I just had a revelation.
Okay.
Maybe he did feel guilty for, it was like a perpetual thing, where he felt guilty the first time he committed a felon, but he couldn't get out of it. Yeah. So he just kept on barreling down this bad path, and then finally, when Plutonian snapped, he kind of said, I can start over. I can do the right.
That's true. And anyway, it's a really good book. Let's see if there's anything else. It's Boom Studios, 2009, as we said. The main people that he deals with in the first bunch of books, Dr. Origin, who may or may not have given him his powers.
Oh, yeah.
He's a doctor that kind of manipulates people, go to him to try to get superpowers.
Right.
And then Incendiary, Amberjack, and Deathgiver are all mentioned. And there's not a whole lot to them, but I'm sure there will be, and I'm looking forward to that. That was one thing with like Irredeemable. They threw out all these characters, the names, and then they didn't really make good on them. But they have now.
Yeah.
I mean, they're starting to introduce backstory and all that stuff, and that's really neat. I really like that. I mean, you just got plopped down in the middle,
right? And
so now you get both sides, which is compelling. It's a really good read. I recommend it highly. Irredeemable first. And if you just can't get enough, then try this. But don't think it's the same thing, because it's not. But it might be. I think it has great potential.
I think it does too, as long as they explain why he turned good, in a very good way.
You just have a real problem with that.
I do. It just doesn't,
Okay. All right, guys, go check it out.
Yeah. What he said? Oh. I hit it.
There. It didn't stick though. Don't be late for class. It's Ip Man, the movie.
Hi guys, today we're doing Incorruptible. And let's do a login.
It was totally realistic.
It was unavoidable that he was going to change it. My thought was it... Sorry. Come back to me, words. Words. Okay,
I think I just had a revelation.
Okay. Sure.
I'm thinking...
I had a revelation. And here it is. 1, 2, 3, go. I'm good at interrupting.
Yes, you are an interrupter. So, I think I've had a revelation, like I said, because we have to do this after the cut.
What cut?